Now, I told you that Joe Biden was going to be bad news for a lot of American families. We have massive inflation already. We have energy prices that are going through the roof. Oil has now reached $100 a barrel in Europe. It is nearly to $100 a barrel in the United States. Not surprising. It's a worldwide commodity. We've got gasoline prices that are affected by that, and they're going up dramatically. We've got a commander in chief in Joe Biden who doesn't seem to know what he's doing. So, with all that as background, it's a pleasure to welcome back to the program Heidi St. John, who is running as one of the candidates to replace Rhino Republican Jamie Herrera Butler in Washington's 3rd Congressional District. Heidi, welcome back.
Hey, Lars. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing very well, but I want to know if you were in the United States Congress. So if the voters choose you instead of Jamie Herrera Butler, the incumbent Rhino, or instead of Joe Kent, what would you do in the Congress to change this situation?
Well, we have to agree that bad policies equals bad outcomes, right? We can see that all throughout the country right now. We see it with COVID, certainly front and center. We see it with taxes, what's happening at our borders. We see it all over the Biden administration because these guys have an anti-fossil fuel approach to everything, right? So I think we can agree renewables, we're big into that here, right? With wind and solar, they got a role to play, but we can't put all of our eggs in that basket. And that's exactly what Biden has done. The guy is not rooted in reality. So take him back. 9 months ago, I believe, or thereabouts, he waived Trump's sanctions against the company that was building Russia's Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline to Germany. And I'm pretty sure there was bipartisan opposition to this in the Congress. That's a place where we can start. He didn't extract concession first. What happened? He shows weakness. And now what do we have? We have an emboldened Putin who is doing this. At the same time, Biden undermined the U.S. energy independence, and he reversed Trump's oil and gas policies. Trump was such a champion for the United States. He lifted the drilling restrictions on federal land. He cut through the red tape, holding up the construction of crucial oil and gas pipelines. We can start to bring people back into the Congress who will support these policies and start to bring American first policies back into the Congress. I think that's where we need to start.
Well, see, and I think you can rein in even an out-of-control president. I'm not saying that when we get the Republican majority in the House and in the Senate again, if you pass a law that says we should be able to drill for oil and gas, we should be able to use fracking, you could take some of the policies of Trump and put them in an actual law. The Congress has the authority to do that. Would you go that far?
Absolutely. The question is going to be, are we going to have a majority or not? And are they going to have the backbone to stand up against the environmentalists, the AOCs and all these other radicals who are currently in the House of Representatives? Biden just said he's going to use every tool at our disposal to limit the effect of the sanctions that he's placing on domestic gas prices. Well, guess what? Every tool at his disposal is to immediately reinstate Trump's energy policies, but we all know he's not going to do it because AOC is not going to like it. And I actually think Biden's going to go and do the opposite. I think he's going to delay decisions on the new oil and gas drilling on federal land because of a ruling by the U.S. District Court judge in the Western District of Louisiana. This dude blocked federal agencies from using an estimate known as the social cost of carbon to assess pollution from carbon emissions. I was, a couple of years ago, my husband and I were looking at purchasing land in Battle Ground, Washington, and I'm telling you what, we wanted to do it for a business venture. The restrictions that we came up against because of the EPA, because of the environmental restrictions, these people treat environmentalism as a cult. It's like a religion. They care more about people, they care more about pigeons than they do about people. And so we've got to have a lot of people going to the Congress and going to the Senate that will stand up and say, no, we've got to bring sanity back to this. Biden isn't rooted in reality, and we've got to start sending people to Congress who are going to stand up and say, no, we need drilling in the United States. We need to open up the pipelines. We need to be able to produce our own energy and pipe our own oil. Otherwise, we're dependent on these foreign countries for oil, which, frankly, is exactly what Biden wants.
Well, it is because when Trump left, we were energy independent. Didn't mean we didn't buy from other people, but we bought from other countries when we wanted to, when it was convenient, when the price was right, because we had enough to supply our own needs if we wanted to. I mean, it's like what everybody hopes to do with their own life. Say, I want to be financially independent of my parents, or I want to be financially independent of this or that. When you get that financial independence, if somebody said, well, does that still mean you won't take help from your, oh yeah, we can take help from my parents, but I'm financially independent now. I can decide when I want to do it. Joe Biden gave that away, and you've made a prediction about where you think gas prices are going right now, because you don't hear a lot of politicians talking about that. Where do you think they're going to go?
Well, I think they're going to hit about $7 a gallon pretty soon. I mean, you nailed it. We're at about right around $94 a barrel right now. We've seen what's happening in Europe and around the world. When these things hit $100 a gallon or $150 a gallon, and they're going to at the rate that things are going, especially, a barrel, exactly. Thank you. And I think, we're going to see this. We're already reeling, as you pointed out, from soaring inflation, and now we're going to get hit by these amazing prices in our gas. I think it's going to go up to $7 a gallon, maybe even more, because charging more for energy, based on the estimate of how many greenhouse gas pollution is going to damage the society, is what's pushing all this. And this is the legacy of the Biden administration. This is a big government versus small government. This is energy independence versus dependence on foreign energy. This is the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats, just one of them on its face. And pretty soon the Americans are going to start feeling it.
Do you think Biden's doing it on purpose? Because people like Kate Brown and Jay Inslee, they want people to stop driving gasoline-powered cars. You push gas to $7 a gallon, you're going to change people's buying decisions, aren't you? Maybe Joe Biden wants this to happen, even though it'll be crippling.
Yeah, everything he's doing is crippling the country right now. Every single thing he's doing, from his foreign policy to the open borders, everything he's doing is crippling the country. I actually don't think the guy is rooted in reality. Is it fossil fuels or is it wind and solar that are driving the airplanes that are flying through the sky right now? It's fossil fuels. You can't just get rid of fossil fuels and expect the economy in the country is just going to recover. They've got to be rooted in reality. We've got to have conversations about what's working and what isn't. And when you start treating environmentalism and this disdain of fossil fuels as a religion, which is what these people do, this is the sure outcome. And frankly, I think it's going to hurt them. Like I've said to you many times before on your show, these guys are throwing us a football. Now, all we've got to do in 2022 is not fumble it.
Now, tell people where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me at Heidi St. John for Congress everywhere.
I'm going to make a suggestion to you. The most recent example, and it came today. You say, do electric vehicles make sense, in a big way, in a 30,000-foot way? And the answer is no, they don't. No. The U.S. Postal Service, which is part of the Biden government, but they're in an independent government agency, they just decided today to buy 150,000 new vehicles. Of that 150,000, 90%, 135,000, are gasoline-powered vehicles. And the other 10%, 15,000 vehicles, those are electrics. If they made sense economically and otherwise, the Postal Service would be buying all electrics. They're not doing it. They're doing a token amount to make the Greens happy. That's Heidi St. John running for Jamie Herrera Butler's seat in Congressional District 3.
Do you ever think you'd be paying this much for a gallon of gas? In some parts of California, they're paying $4.50 a gallon.